Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're embarking on a really unique exploration. We're going to peel back the layers on one of the most iconic and, let's be honest, often pretty enigmatic figures of our time, Steve Jobs.
Yeah, definitely enigmatic.
Forget the headlines, the famous keynotes just for a moment. Our mission today is to step beyond that public persona and delve directly into his mind. And we're doing that specifically through his own words. You know, his speeches, candid interviews, even personal emails.
Where we're trying to understand what truly drove him. How did he navigate these immense challenges, and what did he believe was fundamentally important, both in life and in work?
Exactly. This isn't just, recounting facts you might already know.
Not at all.
Yeah.
We've sort of synthesized this really rich tapestry of his direct insights. We've pulled out those vital nuggets of knowledge that offer, well, surprisingly potent, directly applicable lessons. Things you can use in your daily life, your creative work, your biggest goals.
And we really want to make these sometimes complex philosophies incredibly easy to grasp, make them genuinely motivating, and show how they're profoundly relevant to your own journey.
That's the goal. Make it practical, make it inspiring.
So get ready, not just to be informed, but hopefully experience some real aha moments, things that might just shift your perspective on how you approach challenges or innovation, or even, your own sense of purpose.
We really believe that by understanding Jobs in his own voice, you can gain actionable wisdom, things you can apply in your world.
Okay, let's really dig into this. So to really unpack the philosophies that shaped Steve Jobs, we absolutely have to start right at the beginning, his childhood, and specifically the huge influence of his adoptive father, Paul Jobs.
Right, Paul Jobs.
He was a machinist, a guy who never graduated high school, but Steve often described him as, well, an absolute genius with his hands. It sounds like this hands-on thing was foundational, wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. It totally was. Paul Jobs instilled in young Steve not just a skill, but really an entire philosophy. He was meticulous, someone who took immense pride in his craft, whether it was fixing cars or building cabinets.
Yeah.
And that anecdote Steve often shared about his father sectioning off a piece of his workbench when Steve was like 5 or 6 and declaring, "Steve, this is your workbench now." And then he spent just countless hours teaching Steve not just how to use tools, but critically, why things worked the way they did. The mantra was always, build things, take things apart, put things back together.
So it wasn't just assembling, it was really about understanding the guts of something. I remember Jobs mentioning his father would insist even on the unseen parts of a cabinet being just as well finished as the front.
Exactly. That's the perfect example. No one would ever see them. Right. But Paul knew they were there, and that mattered for the integrity of the piece. And this wasn't just practical skill. It was a lesson in integrity, a deep appreciation for internal quality. Paul believed if you were truly passionate, you cared about every single detail, not just what showed on the surface.
And that clearly influenced Steve Jobs later on.
Profoundly. Yeah. Think about Apple products. Those internal circuit boards in the early Macs, they were designed with this almost artistic layout. Even though, 99% of users would never see them, Jobs carried that belief in unseen quality right through his career.
That's a powerful idea for all of us, really.
It is. What hidden details in your own work or relationships or projects are you maybe neglecting just because they won't be seen? True craftsmanship in any field, it extends to the invisible.
That's a fascinating link, that craftsman's ethic right inside a computer. And this curiosity, this desire to demystify how things worked, it really carried on into his early encounters with technology, didn't it? With something called Heath kits.
Heath kits, yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, these were consumer electronics radios, oscilloscopes, even early computers that you bought in kit form.
Right, you built them yourself.
Exactly. They came with these incredibly detailed manuals, all the components color-coded, meticulously labeled. You literally built the product yourself from the ground up.
Wow.
And Jobs said this process gave him an understanding of what was inside a finished product and how it worked. But the deeper thing, the more important insight, was that it gave him the sense that one could build the things that one saw around oneself in the universe.
That's genuinely transformative. So instead of seeing a TV or a radio as some magical, impenetrable black box,
right,
he saw it as something that could be constructed, taken apart, understood. He realized, as he put it, that these things were not mysteries anymore. They were the results of human creation, not these magical things that just appeared.
Precisely. This fostered a tremendous degree of self-confidence. The idea that through exploration and learning, you could understand seemingly very complex things around you. It just removes the intimidation factor from technology and, by extension, from lots of complex systems.
That's a great point for you, the listener. Think about it. How often do we encounter complex systems, a new app, a daunting project at work, even a tricky personal situation, and we just accept them as mysteries we can't quite grasp?
Mhm.
Jobs' early experience suggests that if you take the time to understand the insides, to break them down into parts, you can demystify them. And that builds incredible self-confidence, inspires you to explore and learn more, turning complexity into something manageable.
Yeah. So what's something in your world that you could try to, metaphorically build from a Heath kit? Just to gain that sense of mastery and confidence. It could be learning the basics of investing or dissecting a complex problem at work, or even just understanding the mechanics of a new skill you're trying to learn.
Now, okay, despite this incredibly rich and enabling home environment, school was, well, it was a bit of a different story for young Steve. He initially found it pretty hard. He described how it almost got me in beating the curiosity out of him.
Yeah, he encountered authority of a different kind and did not like it, which sounds like a pretty common experience for a lot of bright, maybe unconventional kids.
He definitely got into mischief in third grade. The stories are kind of legendary, swapping bike locks on like 100 bikes in the school rack.
Chaos.
Absolute pandemonium.
Yeah.
And setting off explosives in teachers' desks. I mean,
Yeah, he admitted he was kicked out of school a lot.
yeah.
It clearly highlights that early resistance to conventional structures, his playful, maybe disruptive challenge to authority.
But then, fourth grade, everything changed when he met Mrs. Hill. He called her one of the saints of his life. And her approach was, well, profoundly unconventional, especially back then.
She really got him. She truly understood how to reach him. Famously, she bribed him back into learning with candy and money.
Right, the workbook story.
Yeah, she gave him a math workbook, offered him $5 and a giant lollipop if he could finish it with 80% accuracy. And Jobs, being competitive and driven, just zipped through it.
Of course.
But what was truly remarkable, he said later, was that before very long, I had such a respect for her that it sort of reignited my desire to learn. She didn't try to force him into a box. She just met him where he was. She even got him kits for making cameras.
Leading him to grind his own lens and make a camera. That's amazing.
Isn't it? He often said he probably learned more academically in that 1 year than I'd ever learned in my life.
That's such a powerful story about the impact of just one insightful mentor. So for you listening, think about this. Where in your life do you feel your curiosity might be stifled by, conventional approaches? The lesson isn't just about literal bribes, obviously. It's about the huge influence a great mentor can have by thinking outside the box, by seeing and nurturing your unique spark. What unconventional approaches might you need to seek out or maybe even apply to yourself to reignite your desire to learn or tackle a problem with fresh eyes?
Yeah, maybe it's a new environment, an unexpected collaborator, or just shifting your own mindset about what learning even means.
This tendency toward unconventional paths definitely continued into his post-high school years, particularly his experience at Reed College.
Right, Reed. He initially dropped out after just 6 months, mostly because of the cost, and he felt he lacked clear direction. But crucially, he didn't actually leave. He sort of dropped in for another year and a half, auditing classes that genuinely interested him.
And that's where he found this immense, unexpected value in those seemingly meaningless humanities lectures. He audited Shakespeare, for example, but it was that calligraphy course that he later called priceless.
Absolutely priceless.
Oh.
He even made a point of noting how he learned about different typefaces, serifs, sans serifs, how to make truly beautiful typography.
Which seems completely random at the time.
Totally random. But this is like the quintessential example of what Jobs famously called connecting the dots looking backwards. At the time, auditing calligraphy or Shakespeare, it seemed utterly unrelated to his future in tech. Maybe even wasted time to some friends on more conventional paths. Yet those experiences became foundational to his aesthetic sense, his passion for elegant design, and ultimately the beautiful typography that became a hallmark of the Macintosh. He trusted his gut, his intuition, even when the path wasn't clear. He believed these disparate experiences would somehow come together.
So for you, listening, think about those seemingly unrelated experiences or hobbies or detours in your own life, things that might feel like wasted time right now.
Yeah, like a passion project you abandoned or a difficult personal period, or even just a conversation that seemed to go nowhere.
Jabba's story is such a powerful reminder that these disparate dots often connect in really unexpected and valuable ways later on. They create this unique tapestry of knowledge and skill that no straight linear path could ever provide.
It's a testament to trusting your intuition, having faith that your unique journey will reveal its coherence eventually. Don't be afraid to wander where curiosity leads, even if you can't quite see the destination yet.
And that idea of seeking fresh perspectives, embracing the unfamiliar, it continued with his trip to India. That was a period that really shaped him deeply.
Yeah, hugely. He first traveled to Switzerland, then went on this profound journey through India. He described it as an intense culture shock.
And he talks about how returning to California after that trip felt like being a stranger in America for the first time.
Right, but not in a bad way.
No, not negative, more like liberating. It allowed him, as he put it, to notice things that you rapidly stop noticing when you become familiar with your surroundings. He apparently spent about 3 months just sitting, reading, absorbing the newness of his familiar American environment, but seeing it with totally fresh eyes.
That raises such an important question for all of us, doesn't it? How often do we become so familiar with our surroundings, our routine, our work, our relationships, even our own thinking patterns, that we just stop truly seeing them? We lose that beginner's mind. Jobs' experience is this powerful nudge for you to intentionally try to be a stranger in your own environment.
Right.
And it doesn't mean you have to buy a plane ticket.
Right.
It could just mean taking a different route to work, trying a new hobby that pushes you out of your comfort zone, or simply observing your daily life with a conscious beginner's mind. It's a great technique to gain fresh perspectives, uncover insights you've overlooked, and spark new ideas you'd otherwise completely miss.
Okay, so when we talk about Steve Jobs, it's just impossible to separate him from the act of creation itself. He had this really profound, almost spiritual philosophy about making things.
Yeah.
He saw it as a fundamental way of, expressing appreciation to humanity.
He really did. He articulated it beautifully back in 2007. He said, "One of the ways that I believe people express their appreciation to the rest of humanity is to make something wonderful and put it out there." And he emphasized that you might never meet the people who use what you create, right? Never shake their hands or hear their stories. But, he stressed, somehow in the act of making something with a great deal of care and love, something's transmitted there. It's like an act of generosity, a quiet dialogue between the creator and the user.
That's a truly beautiful and kind of elevated way to frame creating anything. It's not just about commerce or utility. It's about a form of communication, a giving back, a contribution to the shared human experience, almost like art, even in technology.
It absolutely is. And what's really insightful here is that this isn't just about, grand tech products or big inventions. It's about your contribution, whatever form that takes.
Right.
Whether you're designing software, writing a report, crafting an argument, cooking a meal, even raising a family. How can you infuse that same care and love into your work? How can you approach your daily tasks as a way of expressing appreciation to those who will benefit, even if you never meet them?
That mindset really elevates the mundane, doesn't it, into something truly meaningful, and it elevates your own engagement with what you do.
Exactly. It suggests the how we create is just as important as the what.
This whole philosophy, infusing care and love into creation, it was evident right from the very beginning, wasn't it, with the Apple I and Apple II?
Oh, yeah. Apple basically started, as Jobs famously put it, because he and Steve Wozniak wanted a computer, and we couldn't afford to buy one.
Yeah.
They were just two teenagers, really, fueled by curiosity and maybe a bit of defiance, scrounging for parts in their garages.
Just hobbyists.
Totally.
Yeah.
Initially, their goal was incredibly modest, just recoup their costs. They were selling circuit boards to friends, other hobbyists. But then this pivotal moment happened when the Byte Shop, the first computer store in the world down in Mountain View, placed an order for 50 fully assembled Apple I computers.
Wow, 50?
Yeah. This unexpected demand, this sudden validation, it basically forced them to shift from a casual hobby to a real, albeit tiny, business. It showed there was this hidden hunger out there for accessible computing.
And their core vision was so clear. They wanted to fundamentally demystify the machine. Jobs often contrasted the, hulking machines of IBM, which needed professional programmers and complex commands,
Right.
with Apple's audacious goal of making computers accessible for the rest of us. They fundamentally saw computers not as these inscrutable mysteries, but as clear, understandable results of human creation. That was a radical shift.
It truly was. IBM's approach was kind of about control and complexity. Apple's was about empowerment and simplicity. And this raises a crucial question for you, the listener. How can you simplify complex tasks or ideas for others?
Mm-hmm.
Make them approachable, understandable.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's explaining a new process at work, teaching a skill, communicating a difficult concept, even designing a user interface, thinking about how to demystify the machine can make your contribution so much more impactful. It empowers the people around you.
It's about building bridges, not walls.
Exactly.
Mm.
Between people and the knowledge or tools they need. Stripping away unnecessary jargon, finding the most intuitive path forward.
The Macintosh, of course, took this philosophy demystification, user empowerment to a whole new level. Jobs used that brilliant, now legendary analogy, the telegraph versus the telephone.
Oh yeah, it's classic.
It perfectly encapsulated his vision for the Mac. He explained the telegraph, much like the IBM PC back then, required these strange incantations, commands like /Qs or memorizing complex programming syntax.
Right, like learning a secret code.
Exactly. It was powerful, sure, but it was designed for a select few, an elite group who spoke its weird language, like Morse code. Functional, but totally unintuitive for the average person.
But then, he continued, came the telephone. It did the same basic thing, communication, but the key was people already knew how to use it. No instruction manual needed. And the most beautiful thing about it, he said, was that in addition to allowing you to communicate with just words, it allowed you to sing. It allowed you to intone your words with meaning beyond just the linguistics through voice, emotion, nuance. It unleashed expression.
And that, he argued, was what the Macintosh was designed to do.
Precisely. He saw the Mac as the first telephone of our industry, allowing users to sing through intuitive graphical interfaces, varied fonts, graphics, visual design, instead of blinking cursors and arcane commands.
You got desktop icons you could click, windows you could drag, that friendly hello and the smiling icon at startup.
Yeah. It effectively brought this liberal arts spirit into the previously cold, serious, complex world of computing and business. It wasn't just about function. It was about humanizing technology.
This is such a crucial lesson in user experience for anyone creating anything today. Are you, in your projects, your communications, your leadership, are you asking your audience or users to learn Morse code, to memorize obscure commands, or navigate overly complex systems?
Or are you enabling them to sing, to express themselves naturally, intuitively, with joy? This applies whether you're building software, crafting a presentation, designing a service, even explaining a complex idea.
Focus on intuition, natural interaction, enable expression beyond just function. Make it easy, even delightful for people to be themselves and get things done through what you offer.
And that profound commitment to user experience, to intuition, it was just inextricably linked to his relentless pursuit of aesthetic excellence and meticulous design. Jobs firmly believed that it doesn't take any more energy, and rarely does it take more money to make it really great.
He felt it simply required a little more time and a willingness to persevere until it's really great. It wasn't about extravagance. It was about painstaking care.
He was famously, maybe notoriously, stubborn about quality. He had this deep conviction that your aesthetics get better as you make mistakes. He pushed his teams for incredible precision, practical details, famously insisting on things like a product having a handle on them that says, pick me up and move me, even if it added minimal cost.
Right, he wanted products to feel approachable, inviting.
Yeah. So the takeaway here is that the pursuit of excellence in both design and function, even the seemingly small details, it's always worthwhile. For you, apply this to your own projects, whatever they are. Strive for greatness in the details, even if it takes a little more time. Embrace that iterative process of learning from mistakes. Understand that your design sense, your aesthetics get better through practice, through failures, through refinement. Consider not just the function, but also the aesthetic and practical details that make something truly enjoyable, intuitive, even delightful to use. Craft an experience, not just a product.
Moving beyond the products themselves, Jobs also had these revolutionary ideas about marketing. He fundamentally believed that marketing is about values, not just, dry speeds and feeds or technical specs, which was pretty radical for the industry back then.
Totally radical. He used these incredibly powerful, resonant examples to illustrate it. Take Nike's Just Do It campaign. Nike sells shoes, right?
Sure.
Basically a commodity. But their ads, he pointed out, don't ever talk about the products or their technical features.
Sure.
Instead, they honor great athletes and they honor great athletics. That's who they are. That's what they are about. Similarly, he cited the Got Milk campaign, which focused on the absence of milk, not its nutritional benefits, yet it dramatically drove sales by highlighting this universal experience.
Huh. Interesting.
And he distilled Apple's own core value down to this profound belief. People with passion can change the world for the better. And from that, the conviction that those people that are crazy enough to think that they can change the world are the ones that actually do.
That wasn't just a tagline, it was the soul, the purpose of the Think Different campaign. A rallying cry for the misfits, the rebels, the ones who saw things differently.
Which raises a critical question for you. What are your core values? What do you truly stand for, beyond just what you do or sell? How can you communicate what you believe in a way that resonates emotionally, not just logically, with your audience, your team, your community?
Identify your inner crazy ones, those deep passions and convictions that truly differentiate you and your work, and let them drive how you present yourself and your contributions. It's about inspiring, not just informing, finding the narrative that connects your work to something larger, more meaningful. Now, one of the most painful but ultimately transformative experiences in Steve Jobs' life was his pretty brutal firing from Apple in 1985 at the remarkably young age of 30.
Yeah, 30 years old. He described it as devastating, a profound public failure. He felt like he had dropped the baton of his life's work.
But despite the public humiliation, the deep sense of loss, something incredibly profound dawned on him afterwards. He realized, with this surprising clarity, I still loved what I did. The turn of events at Apple had not changed that one bit.
Right. The rejection from his own company didn't extinguish his passion. Not for creation, not for technology, not for building great things. That love was still there, undiminished.
He famously called this period an awful-tasting medicine, but he also acknowledged it led to the lightness of being a beginner again. This newfound freedom, this sort of clean slate, paradoxically propelled him into one of the most creative periods of his life.
Absolutely. That's when he founded NextXT Computer and, maybe even more significantly, acquired that struggling computer graphics division that would soon become Pixar. So this is a truly profound lesson in resilience and the enduring power of passion, really, for all of us. When you inevitably face setbacks, failures, or get hit in the head with a brick, as he famously said, remember that loving what you do is often the only thing that truly keeps you going. Don't lose faith in that core passion. Don't settle for less than what you truly love, because that love is the indispensable fuel for rediscovery, reinvention, future creativity. It's the anchor that holds you steady when everything else feels like it's adrift.
Those wilderness years with NextT and Pixar, they were definitely formative. They forced him to learn crucial lessons about focus, patience, embracing risk. NextT, his new computer company, struggled immensely at first. It was famously late, expensive, surprisingly poor sales.
Yeah, and Pixar, which he bought from Lucasfilm, was just this tiny computer graphics operation eking out an existence selling computers and software. It was a chaotic, financially precarious time.
Sounds incredibly stressful.
Oh, it was a trial by fire, for sure. He learned how to hone a company to its essence, which was a brutal but necessary process. NextT ultimately pivoted entirely to software, laying off employees, closing its manufacturing factory. Pixar, driven by its enchanting short films and the visionary leadership of John Lasseter, painstakingly stripped away its advertising and hardware businesses to focus solely on animation. Despite constant financial challenges, near bankruptcy, right before Toy Story became a hit.
Wow.
Jobs often recalled the only reason Pixar didn't completely fall apart during those lean years was that the leadership team would all get depressed. But not all of us at once. There was always someone left holding the torch.
That's resilience right there.
Yeah.
And this period also profoundly solidified his philosophy of not being afraid to fail.
Yeah, he was explicit about it. One of the things I always tried to coach myself on was not being afraid to fail. When you have something that doesn't work out, a lot of times people's reaction is to get very protective about never wanting to fall on their face again. I think that's a big mistake.
That's really counterintuitive for a lot of people, especially after a public failure.
It really is. Most people recoil. So for you, the listener, this raises an important question. Do you embrace failure as a necessary, even vital part of achieving greatness? Or do you shy away from risks after a setback? Jobs' experience profoundly shows that your greatest adversities can indeed be your greatest teachers. Don't let the fear of failing again stop you from pushing forward, experimenting, learning. It's often through those moments of falling on your face, getting things spectacularly wrong, that real growth, profound insights, and genuine innovation often emerge. It's where resilience gets forged.
And then, in this truly remarkable, almost cinematic turn of events, Steve Jobs returned to Apple in 1996.
Yeah, the comeback.
He was initially brought in as a consultant after Apple acquired NextT. But when the current CEO was dismissed, he found himself, somewhat reluctantly, back at the helm as interim CEO. And the moment that crystallized his decision to really take on that monumental challenge, to truly commit,
That moment.
a friend asked him why he was even bothering to tell him about Apple's struggles. And Jobs recounts realizing with this sudden clarity, I do give a shit about Apple.
That simple, raw admission. That was the turning point. When he returned, Apple was teetering on the brink of bankruptcy, losing money hand over fist. It was a company adrift, unfocused product line, demoralized employees.
What a mess.
Total mess.
Yeah.
His first major strategic decision was brutally direct. He drastically streamlined the product lines. From a sprawling 17, which confused customers and engineers,
Right.
down to a hyper-focused 4. This was painful, led to significant job losses, but it was, as he put it, essential to put your love into really carefully, to concentrate effort where it mattered most to save the company.
And to rally a skeptical company, a skeptical market, he even developed what he called the Apple hierarchy of skepticism, borrowing, of course, from Maslow's hierarchy.
Yeah, it's a brilliant analogy. He explained that people had these different layered levels of doubt about Apple's survival and future viability.
Okay, so what were the levels?
The hierarchy began with fundamental survival. Could Apple simply stay afloat? Once he demonstrated profitability and stability through drastic cost-cutting, singular focus. The next level of skepticism was product strategy. Could Apple produce compelling, innovative products again? After laying out a clear, focused roadmap, new products like the iMac, the PowerBook G3, the final level of skepticism was growth. Could they actually grow again? He systematically showed how Apple tackled each level by delivering tangible, undeniable results, building foundational strength, earning trust, step by arduous step, before pushing for expansion. It's just a masterclass in turning a company around by hitting the biggest problems first.
This hierarchy of skepticism, it provides a really compelling, practical roadmap for you in overcoming challenges, whether personal or professional. What's the Maslow's hierarchy in your own project or life?
Yeah, are you addressing the foundational, most critical problems first before moving on to less urgent things?
Right. Then are you focusing on your core strengths, demonstrating tangible results before trying to conquer the next big challenge or push for massive growth? It's about building step by step, earning trust and momentum along the way instead of trying to fix everything all at once.
Beyond product and strategy, Jobs had incredibly strong and, sometimes controversial beliefs about leadership and people. He was famously dedicated to recruiting. He said he spent 20% of my time recruiting.
Wow, 20%.
Yeah. Relentless in his search for what he called A players, people with a proven track record of results, exceptional intelligence, quick learning abilities, and most critically, drive and passion.
And he even had that rather infamous interview technique, purposely upsetting candidates.
Oh, yeah. He'd criticize their prior work, asking pointedly, why did you work on that bomb? His goal, he explained, was to see what people are like under pressure. Would they just fold, or if they have firm conviction, belief, and pride in what they did? He knew that in a meritocracy of ideas with passionate people, there would be a lot of arguments. And he wanted people who could stand their ground, not just, agree.
That really highlights the importance of surrounding yourself with people smarter than you, people who are truly passionate about the work. For you, the listener, think about how you identify and attract those kinds of people into your orbit, whether it's for a team, a collaboration, even just your personal growth.
Are you looking for genuine conviction or just agreement? Cultivating an environment where passionate, even fiery debate leads to better outcomes is key. And acknowledging that your job as a leader or team member might often be to enable their brilliance rather than dictate it. It's about building that collective intelligence fueled by strong, independent minds.
Jobs also deeply believed that ultimately it's the work that motivates people. He didn't think it was him or even financial incentives as much as the inherent quality and importance of the work itself. His job as a leader was primarily to make sure the work is as good as it should be and to get people to stretch beyond their best. He was like a demanding editor of excellence.
Which brings us right to his distinct philosophy of management by values. He starkly contrasted it with traditional management by objective, which he found to be all a crock, often focusing on failures after the fact, imposing arbitrary targets.
Right.
His approach was far more organic, almost philosophical. Find people that want the same things you want, and then just get the hell out of their way. He used that great analogy of a shared trip.
The San Diego trip, yeah.
Exactly. Let's say we're all going to take a trip together. The first thing is to figure out where we all want to go. The worst thing is if we all decide we want to go to different places. But if we all want to go to San Diego, that's the key. Then we can argue about how to get there. The destination, the values, came first. The methodology was a collaborative debate.
So what's the San Diego you want to reach? In your work or your life? Identifying that core value, that shared vision, that compelling, inspiring destination, that's paramount.
Then for you, how can you align your team, your collaborators, or even just your own inner motivations around that shared, compelling vision? Once the destination is agreed upon, the how-to becomes a matter of effective, passionate debate and problem solving, not fundamental disagreement.
It emphasizes purpose and alignment over rigid processes. It fosters true commitment because everyone's heading towards a destination they genuinely desire.
Steve Jobs also had this remarkably profound philosophy about mortality, which he considered not morbid, but actually his most important tool for making crucial choices in life. It was like a daily practice for him.
Yeah, he famously put it, "Remembering that I'll be dead soon is the most important tool I've ever encountered to help me make the big choices in life." He explained how this stark perspective just strips away all external expectations, all pride, all fear of embarrassment or failure, leaving only what is truly important. It's an incredibly potent filter.
And he lived by that simple but challenging daily question. If today were the last day of my life, would I want to do what I'm about to do today? And if the answer was no, for too many days in a row, he knew with this chilling certainty he needed to change something. It was his internal compass.
That's a powerful, maybe even confronting invitation for you to reflect on your own life daily. What would you do if today were your last day? How can you use this perspective to find the courage to follow your heart and intuition, to avoid living someone else's life trapped by external expectations or societal pressures or the fear of failure?
It's about cutting through the noise, isn't it? Distinguishing genuine priorities from artificial demands, focusing intensely on what truly matters to you. A daily recalibration for authentic living.
This insight into mortality ties directly into another core belief he often talked about, that mysterious process of connecting the dots and the need to trust your intuition.
Right. He often said, you can't connect the dots looking forward, you can only connect them looking backwards.
Which requires trusting in something deeper than just linear logic. Your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever, as he put it.
Yeah, he believed that believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart, even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference. It's a remarkable leap of faith, but one that clearly worked for him.
For you listening, this provides tremendous reassurance. Your unique path, with all its unexpected detours, those seemingly unrelated experiences, even moments of confusion, it will make sense in retrospect.
Have faith in your intuition, those unforeseen turns. Don't feel pressured to have all the answers up front or force some linear progression. Trust that the connections, the deeper coherence, they'll reveal themselves as you bravely move forward, following your genuine interests and passions. The path becomes clear by walking it.
Jobs also held this very strong conviction against what he provocatively called the career trap.
Oh yeah, he hated that concept.
He saw the modern idea of a career as one of the most dangerous and stifling concepts ever invented by humans. He believed it imposed this separation between work and life that was fundamentally unnatural and unfulfilling.
He argued passionately that work shouldn't be separate from life. Instead, you should make your avocation your vocation. Make what you truly love your work. He believed if you're deeply passionate about what you do, they will become more or less one. The lines blur, not because you're working all the time, but because what you do is what you love.
That challenges you, the listener, to really question these deeply ingrained societal norms around work and professional identity.
Yeah.
What do you truly love to do, even when no one's watching or paying you?
Mm-hmm.
How can you actively merge your passion with your profession? Make your work an extension of your life, rather than a separate obligation or just a means to an end.
Jobs believed that the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow isn't the real reward. It's the crossing the rainbow. The profound fulfillment comes from the act of doing, from the journey itself, from the craft, not just the destination or the financial outcome, finding joy in the process.
Ultimately, Jobs seemed animated by this powerful, almost utopian desire to push human progress forward. He was profoundly driven by the thought that he or that any of us might elevate or expedite human progress, to put something back into the pool of human experience. He saw his work as contributing to something much, much larger than himself.
And his ultimate call to action, maybe his most enduring one more thing message, was truly profound and deeply empowering. He said, everything around you that you call life was made up by people that were no smarter than you.
Yeah.
And you can change it. You can influence it. You can build your own things that other people can use.
Wow.
It's this complete dismissal of passive consumption and a direct invitation to active creation.
That is an incredibly liberating and empowering statement for you. It's a direct invitation to poke life, to shake off this erroneous notion that life is there and you're just going to live in it versus embrace it, change it, improve it, make your mark upon it. It urges you to recognize your own agency, your capacity to shape the world around you, to be a creator, not just a consumer.
In this expansive view of life, of creativity, it all culminates in his famously simple yet deeply resonant mantra, stay hungry, stay foolish.
Right, from the back cover of the Whole Earth catalog.
Exactly. It became this guiding principle he shared in his iconic Stanford commencement address.
Stay hungry for new experiences, new knowledge, new challenges. Never be satisfied with the status quo. Always seek to learn, to grow, to push your boundaries. It's that relentless, insatiable curiosity.
And stay foolish. Enough to retain that beginner's mind, that willingness to try things others might deem impossible or impractical or just naive. It's about being audacious enough to think you can change the world, even when common sense or the consensus tells you it's impossible. The courage to be unconventional.
For you, this isn't just a catchy phrase. It's a continuous state of mind. For lifelong learning, profound innovation, personal growth, how can you embody stay hungry, stay foolish in your own life? Where can you push past conventional wisdom, fueled by relentless curiosity and a fearless pursuit of what you truly believe is possible? What risks are you willing to take to chase that flicker of an idea? Hashtag outro.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Steve Jobs' own words, several really powerfully interconnected lessons truly stand out, I think. We've seen the critical importance of trusting your intuition even when the path isn't clear. The profound power of resilience forged in that crucible of setbacks. The enduring impact of meticulously crafted design and user experience. And the idea that your greatest contribution is to infuse genuine care and love into whatever you create.
And maybe above all, that recognition that you too have the inherent power to shape the world around you. We genuinely encourage you, take a moment, consider which of Jobs' principles really resonated most deeply with you today.
Yeah. And then maybe reflect on one tangible, even small way you can apply that insight in your life, starting right now.
Because if the world around us was indeed made by people no smarter than us, if every significant breakthrough truly begins with someone's insatiable curiosity and willingness to stay foolish,
then what something wonderful are you uniquely positioned to create, to influence, to put out there? Starting right now for the deep appreciation of humanity. What mark will you leave?
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We hope you're leaving with a renewed sense of purpose and maybe possibility for your own creative journey.